This is a I'm assuming 70s something AM transistor radio. It says Electro Brand on it. I don't know. Actually, I have heard of that brand. I think it's just a Chinese brand. I got this on eBay pretty cheap to try to fix. If you'll notice, it's got 14 transistors in it. And from my understanding, they used the transistor count in these old portable radios as kind of like a marketing ploy. So anything they could do to get the transistor count up. And this one they have taken it to the extreme, apparently. I've counted, and it really does have 14 transistors in it. So I guess there is some truth in advertising. There's several different types of transistors in here. And the ones that worry me the most are these black looking ones here. The germanium ones, I'm not as worried about those. I don't know how well you can see this, but these black ones are actually falling apart. This one is actually, the top is separated, like you can just lift it up. And one of the ones in here has done the same thing. And that one doesn't even look to be in circuit. One of the legs wasn't even connected to anything. So anyway, when I got the radio, I connected it through a grain of wheat bulb to a 9-volt battery. The light lit up maybe a tiny bit, not really, not enough for concern. I didn't put it on a meter. And the only sound it would make at that time was just a squealing sound. So I thought that was probably a bad decoupling capacitor. And the only electrolytic in this thing is here. And that's right here, nearby the first audio stage. So I was like, all right, let's just change it. I pulled it out, tested it, and it wasn't even a capacitor anymore. It was just open. So replaced that, and the radio came alive. It's working. It's picking up stations. Seems to be somewhat selective. Sometimes I'm hearing 2 stations at once under certain conditions, so there could be some issues with selectivity, but I don't really know how good these are supposed to be in the first place. But the main issue, I'll turn it on so that you can hear it. One problem is the switch sometimes it doesn't want to turn on. That's with the volume all the way down. All the way down. And if I turn it up, it gets a little bit louder, but not much. Yeah, again, that's the volume as low as it will go. And don't know how well that came through in the video, but like I could barely talk over it. And so because I'm kind of a beginner at this, I was like, well, what could cause that? I mean, that's really odd. I could see the volume not going up, but being too loud. And so I did a little bit of research, and I found out there's an automatic volume control circuit in these radios. And what it does is it takes some feedback from probably the second audio section, and that feedback goes to the first IF stage, and it helps to control the gain of that first stage. So if you have a really strong station, you'll get more voltage going back, and that voltage opposes the current flow at I don't know if it would be the collector or the emitter. I'm assuming these are PNP transistors. So I guess that would be the collector. And so again, just to reiterate, the stronger the station, the more audio output you have, the more feedback the circuit will get, which will actually decrease the gain in the IF stage. And so the only thing I can figure, and what makes absolute sense, is that circuit is just completely open. Now, normally they use a resistor in that circuit. On all the schematics that I've looked at so far that I've been able to find, they use a resistor, like a pretty good size one, like maybe even up in the mega ohms, I think. But I'm wondering, because these two transistors are right here in this, next to this audio output transformer, and I believe this is being used as a diode for the detector stage. That's just a guess. I'm wondering if they were using these two transistors as diodes in order to reduce the voltage instead of using a resistor. That's what I suspect. Either that or there's an open resistor somewhere. And so the next thing I'm going to do is, I mean, this one transistor, it's just garbage anyway. I mean, you can just pull the whole top of it off. You can see it can't be doing anything. So I'm going to take some pictures. I'm going to pull those transistors out and then see if it changes the operation of the radio in any way whatsoever. It looks like they've got the base tied to again, I don't know if they're PNP or NPN. They've got the base tied to something. So it's either tied to the collector or the emitter. So I'm probably just going to pull them out, see if the radio works any different. And I'll probably also use my voltmeter to see if the traces on these are connected to the output of this audio transformer, which I believe I already checked that, and they are. But I'll check that. May even visually be able to see it. Probably won't even need the voltmeter. And I'll pull these out, and then I'll probably, I don't know if I'll get a potentiometer, some big resistors. Don't really know what I'll do, but I'll see if adding some resistance across here in some way will change the volume of the radio, and just go from there. I mean, again, I'm a beginner at this, so I really have no idea what I'm doing. I'm really just guessing at this point, and there's no schematic for this radio. But this is just a mess. I mean, if you look at all the transistors in this thing, this is just, it's just a nightmare. I mean, most of them aren't being used as transistors. I think they've got push-pull for the audio output, but I'll bet most of these unneeded transformer or transistors are being used as diodes, or they're just maybe, I mean, like I said, one of them at least was not even in circuit. So we'll do some more investigating and see if we can't get that automatic volume control circuit going. Also, they had a wire broke off of the 9-volt battery clip, and I resoldered it. The wire was super short. The clip's not in very good shape, so I'm going to put I've got a whole package of these new battery clips, so I'll put one of those on there while I'm at it, and then find some way to clean this switch, the on-off switch, because again, sometimes when you turn it off, the radio just stays on. And I looked with a microscope, and the contact for that switch is where it moves up and down. It's really dirty, so that should be an easy fix. So anyway, we'll get this we'll get some desoldering done, and then I'll take you along for the next part of the ride. Okay, I've taken those two broken transistors completely out. They were broken anyway, so the tops had completely came off, so they couldn't have been doing anything. One of them was up here and in this area. I didn't take a video of it, but I actually soldered a couple of DuPont connectors on there so that I could test different things to see if maybe adding a transistor as a diode or a resistor would make any difference. And I tried resistor values all the way up from 4 mega ohms all the way down to a few hundred ohms. I tried PNP transistors, NPN, I tried everything, and none of it made any difference in the operation of the radio. And I don't really know why I didn't think about this last night, but what I decided to do today is, after I pulled that one transistor out that was broke down here, is check the voltages down here. I don't know, again, why I didn't do that last night on the other one. But there's not enough voltage anywhere in that area to bias a transistor. So either that transistor was just kind of hanging out and not doing anything at all, or there's a problem somewhere else as well, because the only voltage, so the transistor was, it's these 3 holes here, and I don't think one of the legs was even soldered, but no matter which way I go, I never get any more than 0.02 or 3 volts. So there's no way that transistor could be biased. So I think it was just in there for show. And the problem still persists with the automatic volume controller. The radio is really, really loud even with the volume all the way down. So I'm going to keep digging and see what I can find. Okay, so got me a hot cup of coffee. That always helps when you're doing electronics repair. And I'm also learning the more solder smoke you breathe in, the smarter you get. So I noticed something the other night that I'm shocked that I didn't notice this before. It's embarrassing. But again, when you don't really know what you're doing, just kind of playing by ear, you got to expect things like this. So that one electrolytic that I changed was not the only electrolytic. There was 2 more, and one was here and one was here. And the reason why I didn't notice them was because they were these odd black, it's like some type of a polymer that or package that they're in. I don't know. Yeah, and this one, I mean, one was a 5 microfarad and the other one, I think it was a 30. I mean, those aren't even standard values. So I didn't have a 5 to replace. I didn't have a 5 to replace this one with, so I put a 10 in there. But I put a 33 in the other one, and this one, it helped the clarity of the audio. I don't really know what that one's for. I believe this one is actually for the AVC circuit, because the AVC seems to be working pretty well now. I would still think the volume would go a little lower, but it definitely, there's a much larger contrast between the volume at all the way down and all the way up now. So that's an improvement. So I wonder now if with a good capacitor in there, if it would make any difference if I started jumping these spots where these messed up transistors were. I may try that later. But the main problem is not really the volume control at this point. Let me hook this back up. Oh. Okay, that was kind of hard one-handed. So that's with the volume down, and you can see it goes quite a bit louder, and that's all the way down. So, but the problem is when you go to tune it, it's very finicky and there's no static. And I think that's odd. With the volume maxed out, you would expect to kind of hear some static, I would think. You can see not hearing any static. And if I turn it really slow, I'll find some stations super finicky. So the reception's not completely bad, but so I wonder if it's out of alignment, maybe, or I don't really know what to check at this point. So I think I'm going to put my oscilloscope on it and go from there. Hopefully no one's ever tweaked any of those tuning slugs, but there's no wax in them. I don't really know how to tell if someone's ever turned it or not. I guess maybe the way the paint's marked is, I guess that doesn't really tell you anything. I don't really want to turn any of them. My guess is that if it's off frequency, it may be because something else is wrong and not because the transformer needs to be tuned. But again, I don't really know what else to do at this point. So I'll get my oscilloscope and hook it up and just kind of see what frequency the oscillator's running at. That's the only idea I have. So we'll check back. Well, I think I've done about all I can do on it. I did fix the AVC circuit completely. I found out that one of the capacitors I replaced, one of the legs was actually loose. Had a nice bright shiny solder joint, but solder kind of around the leg. I guess I didn't have the iron against the leg when I soldered it, so soldered that in. Volume goes absolutely all the way down now. Good news, bad news. The contacts on the on-off switch broke. They just snapped like a twig. I don't know if that's just cheap metal. It had some carbon around it. I had said something about the radio didn't want to turn off. Well, now it doesn't want to turn on, so I soldered a jumper across that. Took care of that. Maybe I'll put a tiny little toggle switch on the outside here or something. I don't know if I'll even bother, honestly. But the reception is pretty good. Last night I counted and it was picking up 6 stations. Pretty clear. But when you move the tuning capacitor, you don't really hear any static. You hear nothing, and then you hear a really strong station. So I don't know if that's kind of normal with these radios. It seems like you would hear some static in between stations. So it kind of leads me to think that there's something else wrong. So I've checked everything that I know how to check. I jumped all the bases of the transistors with an 8K resistor to ground, and that didn't make any difference at all. And I jumped several of the disc capacitors with a 23 pico, and the other one I think was maybe a 30 something, and really has no effect other than basically kills the oscillator, depending on where the tuning capacitor is at. Or it definitely kills the reception, I'll say that. And so the other thing I thought was, okay, well, maybe it's out of alignment. I wouldn't know how to align it, honestly. I really don't want to touch the adjustments on those transformers. So I've got my oscilloscope hooked up to the first stage, or basically first transistor, the converter, autodyne, mixer. It basically, if you don't know how this works, that's another thing. If I touch the antenna coil, you can hear a lot of static, but I would think that would be normal though. But there's kind of like a tuned circuit in between the tuning capacitor and the antenna coil, and that's how this first transistor acts as a mixer and a local oscillator. So I've got my scope hooked up, and I'll just do auto, and it's running 900 and something, and it's 984 megahertz, and it's the tuning capacitor is all the way at the bottom of the dial. So if you subtract, let's just say the local oscillator, I believe, would be running or should be running at 455 kilohertz. So if you subtract 455 from that, you get about 540, 535, somewhere in there, off the top of my head. So I think that local oscillator, it's running perfectly. And whenever I move the tuning capacitor, you can see, I don't know if I can do this one-handed. You can see the frequency change. The waves get, they get smaller, and as the frequency goes, as the dial gets turned up. The only thing that gets me is this here. I don't know what's causing that. I don't know. Maybe that's not enough to really matter. I don't know. But other than that, it's a very perfect wave, very perfect sine wave. Other than that, and maybe the oscilloscope probe is causing that little bit of interference. But the only other thing I can think of, because I've done as much as I can to check without just pulling things out and checking them, and the capacitors aren't labeled. I've done as much as I can. I don't have any germanium transistors. I could start jumping transistors, but I don't have any germaniums. So I would have to order some germaniums to try that. And again, I think the radio is actually operating pretty well. So I don't know that I really want to take it any further than that. And again, I show you that the AVC circuit does work. So that's volume all the way down, all the way up. So that AVC capacitor was definitely causing that automatic volume control circuit to not function. But I'm going to put this thing back together, and I'm going to call it fixed. And maybe when I come across some spare germanium transistors on a rainy day, maybe I'll jump some of those and see if the reception would improve. But again, 5-6 stations, I mean, I think that's about all this thing would honestly pick up. So I guess I'll see y'all in the next one. I got a whole bunch more radios I'm going to be working on, and a lot of other electronics projects. I hope that some of y'all will hang out with me and go on that journey.
Stories at the top of the hour. You just gotta know what's happening in your... Big works are designed for something. Run on for Michael Colby. You can only do... The fact is, we can all... Right, like it's...